Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
It's Memorial Day 2026 here in the United States of America. And for many people, this means barbecues and picnics and taking the day off as it's a federal holiday. But there is much more significance and meaning to Memorial Day. And we are going to find out because we have a very special guest who is also a very dear friend of mine. He has served more than 31 years in the United States Navy. He is a captain, and he's going to tell us about his journey and the significance of Memorial Day. Let us welcome Captain Red O'Loughlin.
Howdy,
welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. Really honored to be here. Thank you so very much.
It's an absolute pleasure. We just returned from being together at Denver, Colorado for a conference. So it's wonderful to see you in almost 24 hours later on a woman's prerogative.
It was a very fast weekend in Denver. I will agree with that. We got home last night about midnight.
Red, you are working on our network 3 hours a day, every Thursday for years now. And what people might not realize is that you have an extensive background in serving your country, the United States of America, our country. And so I want to just dive into a little bit about how this all happened. When is it that you decided to enlist? Oh, it looks like he's frozen in time. Let's see, Red, are you there? All right, it looks like he's having some technical issues. So if you're just joining us, it is Memorial Day, and it is a way for people to celebrate through picnics and barbecues. But there's an actual deeper meaning to Memorial Day, like Labor Day. And for people who have served our country and people who are serving our country, we want to say thank you so much. We really do appreciate you, especially in times of peace and in times of war. And we have our own hero with us today, Mr. Red O'Loughlin, and he is joining us. Let's welcome him. Hello, sir. Good to have you.
One more time, I'm back again. I don't know what's going on, but it's just one of those kind of things. So
that's okay. Tell us about you. 31 plus years in the United States Navy. Tell us how it started, the day, and when you got the call.
Okay, I was a product of the 60s. Back then, it was Vietnam was the big thing. And I was getting at that point in time in college that I'm about ready to graduate, and it's either Vietnam one way, shape or form, or Vietnam. You didn't have a whole lot of choices. So my best friend at that point in time, and he says he's going to go join the Navy. My dad was a Navy pilot for 20 years. Okay, let's go up to Dallas. We took the Navy physical fitness exam. We took the aptitude test and the physical fitness. We both passed the aptitude. I passed the physical fitness. He flunked it. They kept him over one day to see if he could pass. I went back home. The following Wednesday, I got married to my wife. He was my best man. He was 4F from the military, never went into the military as much as he wanted to. I'm in Vietnam, and he gets killed back in the States in an automobile accident. So, things are strange. So anyway, this is the summer of 68. I did not finish my degree in time. I had a failing grade in physical chemistry, so that meant I had to take the whole year over again. So I applied for an exemption, 1 year exemption with the draft, and now like 68 becomes 69. I graduated in May of 69, June of 69. I'm at boot camp in Pensacola, Florida, what they call Aviation Officer Candidate School. And I joined as a pilot. Everything was fine. I'm sitting there, second day in the Navy. I'm sitting in what they call Naval Air Aviation Institute of Medicine, NAMI. I'm not sure how the acronym works. Naval Aerospace Medicine Institute or something. Anyway, I'm sitting there, and the guy comes out, one of the corpsmen, he's reading this message to about 50 of us sitting in this room. Says, effective this date, anybody who is a pilot in this program, effective immediately, as soon as you get your wings, you have to put in 5 years instead of 3.5 years. So when we walked in the door the day before, the obligation for you get your wings, and then you have 3.5 years on active duty that you have to serve. Well, I asked the guy, I says, what about naval flight officers? And he says, doesn't say anything about that. So they're still 3.5 years. So unbeknownst to anybody in the Navy, I had all my records there. This is before computers. And so I changed my designator from AOC to NAOC, Naval Aviation Officer Cadet, which meant that now instead of being a pilot, I was being a naval flight officer. And to me, it wasn't a big deal. The pilot program was about 1.5 to 2 years, depending on which kind of aircraft you flew. In the pipeline, you started in this location, you went here, and you went here, and you went here. For mine, I went to San Diego, then Moffett Field, California by San Francisco, and then to my squadron in Hawaii. And so for mine, it was a very, very short transition time. So I left Pensacola, went to Corpus Christi, got my wings. From there, I did about 6 weeks in Dallas on recruiting duty, and then went to California, and just got there in time to have my daughter born. She was very reluctant to drive in the car with me, my wife being pregnant that far, driving across country. So she flew on out. My parents were in California, met her. And so we're there in California. And so she was born at Balboa Naval Hospital. And then as soon as I'm getting ready to get out of the Navy, my son is born at Balboa Hospital in Hawaii, medical place. So anyway, I get to Hawaii, January of 1971. My squadron's coming back from their deployment to Sangley Point. And one of my first flights is from Hawaii to Washington, D.C. Then I get back to there. I get now to Hawaii to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I get back, and I'm basically a navigator. So then we spend the rest of that summer, January, February, March, April, getting out of in the mode, getting everybody tuned up, getting into new crews, getting everything set for a deployment coming up basically about October, November of 1971. That's my first trip to what is called Operation Market Time in Vietnam. And so by this point in time, I'm a qualified navigator on a P3. Now, P3 is a 4-engine turboprop aircraft that has kind of a stinger tail at the back end of the aircraft. It has a module back there that measures magnetic anomalies. So if you're flying, say, 200 feet over the water, which is what we typically do for our missions, and there's a submarine, 500 feet under the water, that submarine with its metal is going to create a magnetic anomaly in the Earth's atmosphere. And this instrument is sensitive enough to register that mass of metal. And so it's going to swing one direction to the other. And so when you're actually prosecuting a submarine and you're coming around to push the button to release a torpedo, you want to make sure that that torpedo is right there in front of the submarine. So typically we come around and say, okay, get ready to attack, open bomb bay doors, everything's all set up on the computer. And as soon as we hear mad, 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 then you push the button, the torpedo goes out literally about 500 feet in front of the submarine. And now the submarine hears the thing going in the water, but the torpedo is in front of him. So no matter which way he turns, the torpedo is going to follow him. So that's the way the theory works. And I've done that in the trainer on many, 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 many occasions. And we actually practice the way we notice. I'll go out to the aircraft, whether it's a mission in the Pacific, the Indian Ocean, or the Atlantic Ocean. We'll lock all of the bomb bay, whatever's in the bomb bay that's configured, we'll configure that configuration for torpedoes. If we happen to be doing a nuclear weapons check at the same time, we'll go ahead and configure it for that. But we go out every single mission, and as soon as we get out there, we do our whatever we're doing. We'll find the submarine, and we just go through the checklist. And when it comes down to, okay, we found the submarine. That's where he's at. That's his course and speed. That's his depth. We're going in for an attack run. I'll let everybody know. And as soon as we get there, the bomb bay doors are open. Okay, simulated attack number 1. And then we go ahead and do whatever we do for a while. Simulated attack number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, up to 8 attacks. And I was on some Soviet submarines. I did manage to get 8 attacks in a 2-week exercise off of the Azores or wherever we had, Bermuda, wherever we happened to be at. But we'd always practice as if it was a real live load out there. Now, back during that time, the Soviet submarines had to actually load their missiles with liquid oxygen, which really was a very noisy operation. So if they were ever actually going to shoot during the Cold War, the whole world knew that something was going to happen. But if you're flying down, 200 feet, generally speaking, you were pretty quiet. Now, if they really wanted to hear you, they probably could. At least that's what the U.S. submarines told us. They could actually hear us fly by, but I don't know.
Wow. That was quite an explanation. Thank you so much. I've got a number of questions. First, I want to go back to when you said you got your wings.
Okay.
What does that mean, and how did you get them?
I got Naval Flight Officer wings. That meant that I had to pass Naval Flight Officer School in Corpus Christi. The wings involved basically becoming a navigator in all sense of the operation: celestial navigation, land operation, LOFAR, not LOFAR, what do you call LORAN. But basically, you had to be qualified. Whatever navigation system was in the aircraft you were in, you had to be proficient at it and be able to demonstrate that you could operate that aircraft anywhere, shape, or form. So whatever we had when I was doing the aircraft in Corpus Christi, I'd go to the aircraft at Moffett Field, and we would train on the newer navigation systems they had. So you go out on a 12-hour mission. You may be flying 1,000 miles someplace. You're not telling anybody where you're going. You're in the dark. You may be, hundreds of miles away from land, 500 feet at night, 200 feet in the daytime, and nobody knows where you are. And so by the time that the mission's over, 4, 6, 8 hours later, then you got to get everybody back home. So that was my mission to get my wings. Now, once I got my wings and I got to the squadron, I basically was an en route navigator, which meant I point A to point B, point A to point B, C, D, and E, and then back to point A. So that was my job as a navigator. I did a lot of celestial navigation. I did a lot of, any type of whatever we had available in the aircraft. That was my responsibility, especially if you're out over the ocean. Usually if you're over land, the pilots assume the navigation and they do it with TACAN and the instruments they have in the cockpit. But for us, our domain is the ocean. You get 300 miles off the coast, the navigators can't pick up anything at all now. Once I left the squadron, sat-nav became the standard. But when I was in the Navy, sat-nav was just a new thing. It was only being introduced to a couple of different squadrons at that time, so we didn't have it. We had what was called LORAN. So we had LORAN, we had Celestial. That was the two primary ones. We had an inertial, but it was worthless. Now, the newer inertials that we actually got when I was in Moffett Field, I could take off, fly 8 hours, and come back with being 20 feet of where I took off at. It was phenomenal how accurate they were. But for my wings, I had to be a certified navigator. Now, once I was that, I got to the squadron, I was a certified en route navigator. Now I had to become a tactical navigator. Okay, you're starting to drop buoys. Here, you keep the logs of where all the drops are at. And then you also have to keep a running commentary of what's actually happening. We have acoustic operators that tell, okay, we have contact. We're classifying as, the submarine, whatever. Okay, so I'm keeping track of that. So everything is going on. My tactical coordinator is sitting next to me to the left. I'm right here on the nav plot table. And so I'm keeping track of everywhere the aircraft goes. And I'm keeping track of what's happening. In other words, what tactics are we using now? We may be having this particular tactic. We're searching for something. All of a sudden, contact comes up. Well, what kind of contact is it? So then you start localizing until you're literally within 100 feet or so of the sonar buoy. Then once you have that, then you start tracking the submarine. Then you start determining the depth of the submarine. So by the time you have everything calculated, the depth, the course, the speed, the location. Now, if you real world wartime authorization, you would be able to actually open the bomb bay doors and make an attack if it was so authorized on the flight. But for all of my flights, bomb bay doors came open every time that we were on an operational mission like that. However, let me add one thing that I didn't cover a little bit earlier. In Vietnam, the mission was not anti-submarine warfare. The mission there was what we call surface surveillance. We would take off. I'd take off out of Cam Ranh Bay, Vietnam. It would be just about daylight. As soon as we get over the water, which is the end of the runway, we would bring the radar up and we start looking at all the ships in the South China Sea. We would have a certain plot that we would go out and actually look at every single vessel that's there, identify it, go down one side, come back up the other side, take a look at the name, the upright sequence, the latitude, longitude, the country of origin, all of that stuff with regard to the boat, go to the next, to the next, to the next. And it was not unusual at all to do 100 boats a day. But we had two primary missions there. One, the surface surveillance for any of the Soviet bloc vessels going into Haiphong Harbor. So if we have to find a Chinese or a Romanian or something that was a Soviet bloc vessel, we would fly over the top of it and take pictures looking down if they had the cargo holds open, or we just take pictures of everything. Of course, they're sitting there with the guns going back like that, just following you as you go by. Typically, we would fly with just two engines going out of the four. We'd shut two down to save fuel. But when we ever went by a warship, we had to have all four going just in case you had to get out of Dodge in a hurry. So that was our mission. So we'd get off of Haiphong, we'd take a look at everything that was there. And then the other one was North Vietnam would send what they called infiltrator trawlers. These are small vessels that would carry arms and ammunition to the Mekong Delta. So if we found them, we were allowed one pass, no more. So we had this very long, the thing had to be about 1.5 feet, almost 2 feet long, Polaroid camera with a big magnifying glass. So you'd fly by and you would click. Now, the other guy next to me is a photographer. He's going click, 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 click. And some of the time I was a photographer. I'd go up to the front and relieve him. But we get one Polaroid and we make a decision. Is that an infiltrator trawler, yes or no? If it was yes, we would go off about 12 miles just beyond his view, 12, 15 miles, keep an eye on him by radar, but we'd be far enough out that we're trying to let him know we're not there anymore. He can continue his mission on south. We would monitor him. We would call back to our headquarters, to our main base. They would launch the Ready Alert aircraft. The Ready Alert would come out and he would be there for 12 hours. And then he would be relieved by another one for 12 hours. And so we had 24/7 coverage on this boat as it was going down to the Mekong River in South Vietnam. Now, as soon as he made a turn to go into the Mekong River, that's when they launched a plane out to blow it out of the water. One of the pilots we had in our squadron had like 76 air medals or something for flying missions out there where they actually made those kind of attacks on those small vessels. But that was our primary reason for being there. Find the infiltrator trawler, turn it over to whoever's going to track them. I remember one day we turned it over to a submarine, and the submarine tracked them down to the Mekong Delta. So there was a lot of options that were available at that time. But I would fly 10 days out of Cam Ranh Bay, Vietnam, 10 days out of Utapao, Thailand. My Utapao, Thailand was most of the Indian Ocean. We were looking at any of the vessels coming out of the Indian Ocean into the South China Sea. And then we'd fly again out of the Philippines, and we'd be doing anything up near Okinawa all the way down south to south of Vietnam.
It's incredible, Red, how sharp your memory is about all those details of all those events. Obviously, they've left a major impression on you. And what I'm wondering is, when you look back over those 31 plus years, I don't know if it's exactly 31, but when you look back over those decades that you served our country, the United States of America, do you ever look back and think to yourself, why did I do it? Or do you think to yourself, thank God that I did it?
Good question. I think it's kind of a mix of the two, because you go in because of a certain reason. If you're going to go to Vietnam, you want to go in there on your terms, my brother got drafted. He was in Vietnam, served, in the jungles and everything. Unfortunately, he came out back. He was part of a, I guess, rapid deployment force there in the Army. He would parachute on one day and scuba dive on another. He was out on actually January 1st day with a Navy lieutenant, and they were scuba diving in the, what's the name of that river in Florida, the Swanee River, and neither one of them were found for about a week. And so, fully qualified scuba diver, instructor diver, but he was doing what he loved to do. Now, by the time I got, to Vietnam, and we were in a pretty standard routine of taking off. Now, back then, if you flew more than 130 hours in a month, they would ground you because that's too much flight time. So I think I got grounded once, maybe twice, possibly twice. I can't remember the second time, but we were there, and it's boom, you're there, you do your job, and then you go, literally, you eat, sleep, drink, and fly. The days run into the next day, into the next day, into the next day. And I see a lot of these old World War II movies where, okay, here's the briefing. Well, that's pretty close to the same kind of briefing we used to get. They go out and get the airplane, but 3-hour pre-flight. You get out to the aircraft, make sure all the equipment works. Everybody's doing their things. You get the aircraft fueled. We get the briefing from the weather. We get the briefing on this. We get the briefing on the mission. We go back. Everybody gets their equipment done. We meet in the aircraft. I would usually give the briefing on, okay, this is what we're doing today. This is where we're going. This is what's going to happen. So everybody knows what's happening. We go ahead. Everybody takes their place, and we take off. Now, in my early years in the Pacific, that was primarily learning how to do everything, because I was a fairly young tactical coordinator at that point in time. But after you get through several of these kinds of missions, they grill you and grill you and grill you, and you become what they call a mission commander. And now you're responsible for the entire mission. My mission commander time was for the pilot, safety of flight. If there's safety of flight item, he says, we're going home, we're going home. We get out there. I've had maybe 4 or 5 flights. I think that we had a fire on board. Well, the fire was contained. It wasn't a big deal. Piece of equipment wasn't mission essential. Okay, we can continue flying. But if it was something that was mission essential, pull chocks, go right back home again. But my mission was, let's go do the mission. We fly for a number of reasons. A lot of it's proficiency. The reserves fly with the same crew all the time. When I joined the reserves, I was in a crew that had been together for 7 years. On active duty, we never had the same crew for more than a year because people were always coming in and going out. But you get a lot of stability with that. So I go flying on a mission, and my crew did the other 7 years when I left BP-94 in New Orleans. So my personal record flying out of the Atlantic, I had 17 missions that I flew had no idea in the world where the submarine was, Soviet submarine. They gave us an approximate location. And so my mission was go find it, localize it, track it, and do, practice attacks, simulated attacks. And so that's what our mission was. I'd had 14 missions in a row, mission success of being able to open the bomb bay doors and punch a button simulating a torpedo. 17 out of 18 missions, I was able to do that. The one mission I wasn't was they had lost the submarine, had no idea in the world where he was. And my mission that day was to go out and litter the Gulf Stream with sonobuoys to see if he was hiding in the Gulf Stream, because underwater physics is really an interesting phenomenon. And so when you get hot water and cold water, and you get certain layer depths and things, and a lot of extra noise coming from who knows where, it's an interesting evolution to figure out where the submarine is. Typically, you drop a sonobuoy, it goes down to a certain depth, it has a certain listening range, and if you're in the right place, you'll probably pick them up. If you're not in the right place, absolutely not. In September of 1972, they came out with what they call a DIFAR buoy. Prior to that, it was just an omnidirectional buoy. You would hear something, you'd have no idea in the world where that sound was coming from. On the DIFAR buoy, you could narrow it down to about a 15-degree arc, and that was, okay, that sound's coming from there. But in the Pacific, the water's really deep. So you're up here at the surface level, the buoy's up here, and the sound from the submarine will go down, and it will actually bend because the water is so dense and it comes back up to the surface. It'll bounce off the surface again. And they call these convergence zones. And it goes back and forth and back and forth. And it'll go out 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. I think the first time I ever got one on a Soviet submarine up near Adak, Alaska, was 5 convergence zones, 150 miles away. And it sounded like he was right there in our backyard. So the thing is that the underwater, there's a lot of things there that can disrupt it. And the people are trained to listen for it and understand. So sometimes they can actually pick it up orally before they see it on the screen. But there's certain patterns you look for certain kinds of submarines. U.S. submarines have different signatures than the Soviets, have different than the French, have different than the British. So everybody has a unique signature. Each submarine has a unique signature. And so if you know who you're going after, you kind of look for those uniqueness in the signature of the submarine.
Thank you for sharing that. And you had told me about your brother before, but I'm very sorry about his loss. And that's got to be tough, because someone you loved and someone who was capable and experienced lost their life serving our country, and yet you continue to go forward. And I'm wondering, today in 2026, from knowing you, I think it's 5 or 6, 7 years now, you've got a great head on your shoulders. You always do what you say you're going to do. I could trust you and do trust you with my life. You show up every single time you're supposed to show up. So it doesn't appear to me that there's been a negative impact on your mental state. But I'm wondering, is that actually true?
I think stress, and you've heard me talk about this on my health and wellness shows. Stress affects all of us. You have stress when, a guest doesn't show up. What do? You have stress when, like, we started the show and my Wi-Fi went crazy. How do you handle the stress? If you can handle the stress, generally not a problem. But some people reach out and they grab a hold of that stress and they won't let go. And that's where problems start to occur. Because now, instead of that stress just being a normal conduit in the body where, it's there, I recognize it, I let it go. Exercise is a great way to let go of stress, but there are many ways to let go of it. So if you're not letting go of the stress, and there's a lot of reasons for maybe not letting go of the stress, and probably one of the most severe ones that you can think of is, somebody is in an area where 4 or 5 of their buddies are killed, and they're the only one surviving, and you ask the question why, and there's a lot of guilt. Well, why was I saved? They don't know, or you get so many different things happen. And they have this inability to let that stress go from their lives. And it takes a lot of concerted effort from professionals to be able to treat that. Now, we end up with the same thing in civilian life. You have firefighters, you have policemen, you have other professions, doctors that have a high propensity toward addiction. You have a high propensity toward suicide. You have higher issues with being able to deal with everything that's there. And so that stress is the ability to recognize that the stress is coming, be able to, okay, fine, it's there. And it was needed for the moment. For whatever reason, it was needed. But sometimes you go in and it's gradual. Your wife is nagging you because you're going to work. The kids don't have this because they're relatives. And so, the little financial things kind of build up and they never let go. And then all of a sudden, your boss needs you to go to a trip, and just all of a sudden you've been here and it builds, and you're not letting it go, and that can cause a problem for somebody in civilian life just as easily in the military, maybe easier in the military because of the true shock value of something. When you're taking another person's life, or you're in a position where an innocent is killed, those things affect all of us in a way, and it's almost impossible to say how somebody's going to react according to that. So the stress is the issue that you're dealing with, and that's the one that you have to have a healthy mind in order to, okay, I understand it. I've told you before on my Camino de Santiago, my Let It Go tour, no matter what happened, no matter how bad, let it go. Let it go, Red. Let it go. And it becomes a mantra after a while. Okay, it is what it is. Accept it, move on. You've heard me say, declare victory, move on.
Absolutely. As I mentioned just a few minutes ago, one of the things that I truly admire and love about you is the fact that you are so disciplined and structured, and that your word is your bond. And before I had my own business and I was in corporate, I also was close to people who are recruiters, and they would love to hire people who had a military background. And it's because you can trust people because they appreciate structure and discipline. They take orders, they can give orders. And so I've talked quite a bit about how I'm very structured, and I think being structured is a good thing. So in the military, in your experience, is that structure and discipline based on fear? Is it based on reward? Why is it that people will follow commands that you would give, or that you would follow commands that others, would give?
Well, I'm sure you've seen it yourself, Dr. Jacalyn. When you get into an organization, you have an immediate supervisor, and that supervisor may have only been a supervisor for 6 months, and they're going to make mistakes. And that's kind of the rationale of how things work. You get in a position, you're taking orders from somebody. Okay. You learn what to do, how to do it, and maybe in some cases why you're doing it. But as you make mistakes, you don't make them too many times. Otherwise, you get wrapped upside of the head too many times, and you don't want that to happen. Or you make enough mistakes, and they say, it's been nice knowing you. But as you grow, you're given more responsibility. So now that supervisor becomes a manager of this area, then becomes maybe a district manager, then maybe a field manager. So as you grow in whatever organization you're in, you're given just a little bit more responsibility. And that responsibility means newer chances to fail. And so you start looking at what are the things you have to know, the skills to do your job. And that's what you're usually putting into the job. Here's the defined requirements of exactly what your responsibilities are. And okay, I need to go to school for that, and for that. These other 7 I have covered pretty well. So they will send you to school for whatever kind of training that you're needed for your job. Maybe some type of crypto training, some type of security training, whatever it is, they'll make sure that you're complete in that job. Now, I taught a course probably in the late 80s, early 90s, prospective CO, commanding officer, and executive officer. And I looked at the curriculum, and there was nothing in there that says, how can you get yourself fired? And so that was the very first lesson that I put into the curriculum. I had 2 other instructors with me. We sat down, we came up with a dozen different ways that a brand new commanding officer can get fired. And, why put somebody in that, number one, is qualified to do the job, but he's an idiot and he does something wrong? Well, get his ass out of here. He's no longer going to be a commander. And that's what happens. People, even though they've been in the job 20 years, can still make stupid errors. And that's what it is. There is a stupid error because we're human. Something happens and our brain goes crazy, and whatever it is. And what we may not have even thought about 5 years ago, today is ringing a bell. And so we have these opportunities to take risks for reward and to gain an opportunity to get to a higher level. And so each level in the military will give you those opportunities to make those mistakes, to learn, to be better, to be a risk taker, and to know what your limit is, and to keep everyone safe and to meet the requirement of the mission that you're doing.
Your voice is not catching up with your video yet, just so our viewers know. So, but we can hear you perfectly fine. So thank you for sharing that about discipline and structure. And so as your career in the military evolved, what were some of the next things that you faced?
Well, in the flying job, in my position as a naval flight officer, it was navigation. And then it was tactical coordination. Then it was mission commander. But in the Navy, you have a desk job and you have a flight job. So when I would fly, I would be mission commander of that particular combat crew, and we would go do whatever mission that was. I've had a number of interesting missions over the years. I think I've shared 1 or 2 with you over time. But at the desk job, I was NATOPS officer, which meant I had to go out and qualify navigators and tactical coordinators for their ability to function in the aircraft. I was admin officer in the squadron. And that's where you learn the nuts and bolts of just about every aspect of what does it take to run the squadron. But I also have operations officer, I have maintenance officer, I have other safety officers. You have other disciplines that are in there. So as you're in that particular organization, you fit into where you can. Now, I left the aviation community and went into what's called mobile inshore undersea warfare, MIUW. and they had some of the similar equipment that we had from the aircraft, but they were land-based. They were in front of rivers or very near beaches, and then we would put a sonobuoy out and tie it up where it would not. Most sonobuoys have a saltwater soluble plug that after 3 hours or however many hours that you program the plug for, it would dissolve and the sonobuoy would sink to the ground, to the bottom of the ocean. Well, on the land-based ones, we would be able to manage to keep the sonobuoy active for days at a time. And so that was what we did. We actually monitored ships coming in and out of the harbor in case there was some submarine that was trying to sneak into, say, Portland, Oregon, or someplace. And so that was their job to kind of protect that one. So with my experience, I entered that as an operations officer. Had I stayed in there a while, I could have been an executive officer or a commanding officer of that unit. But I ended up moving over into what they call a maritime defense zone. And again, now I'm kind of specializing in certain areas, but all in the area of operations and readiness. I went to New York City as part of the Maritime Defense Zone Atlantic. I was in a category called assistant training. And my job there was to rewrite the war plans for U.S.-based maritime patrol, port security and harbor defense from a U.S.-based to a worldwide deployable system. So we wrote the programs, we configured the units that needed to operate to those war plans, and then we hired the units, then we tested the units, and then I left that job and went to the West Coast to the Maritime Defense Pacific. These are Coast Guard commands, and I was their Department of Defense liaison as the operations officer for these units. In California, I had 9 Navy units and 2 Coast Guard units that reported to me. And so my job now was to, okay, these 2 units are going to Bahrain in August. These 2 units are going to Korea in April. And so I would then have the units, they were trained stateside. Now we would deploy them overseas to work with the Bahrainis, with the Koreans, with whoever we were working with, and make sure that they could actually operate interoperably with other services. So you get into a port like Bahrain, you may have the Bahraini Navy reporting to the Coast Guard unit, who reports to the base unit, which is Bahraini, which reports to the port security unit, which is U.S., who reports to the Bahraini 1-star, who reports to the U.S. 2-star, and the same kind of operation in Korea. And so you have these operations that are set up so that everybody is working together, and you'll have explosive ordnance disposal. You have MIUW, the Mobile Inshore Undersea Warfare. You'll have communication centers. You'll have all sorts of different things that are there in the port that are all operating under this Port Security and Harbor Defense Command.
Congratulations again on all of your success in the military. You've been how many countries? 65?
64 at last count, yes, and 61 of them with the military.
And in very soon, I think in July, you will be celebrating 59 years of marriage.
68 to 59 years, 58 years right now.
Okay, 59. So how were you able to travel all these places, all these countries, and have the beautiful marriage that you have? I witnessed such a beautiful moment between you and Marilyn over the weekend, and I literally had to turn away because I had tears in my eyes. And I thought, you don't see this kind of love and this kind of respect. I have not seen what I see in the two of you, really, I don't think ever. So how do you manage to have that when you're serving your country and you're flying to all these other countries and you're not away, you're not home, you're away?
Well, when I was on active duty with the first 4.5 years, we lived in Hawaii and I was deployed to Vietnam. The second deployment, I was deployed to Okinawa, and my wife came out and she was there for about 3 of the 6 months that I was there. So she got a chance to get to Hong Kong and I'm not sure where else, but then I get back to the States and now I have a 2-week deployment to Adak, Alaska, or a 2-week deployment to Guam, or a 2-week deployment to Spain. And those are 2 weeks at a time. And sometimes I would take my regular vacation and here's another 2 weeks in Spain or wherever I ended up going, Bermuda or someplace. And so the travel wasn't that I was going to be gone for all year. The travel was a 2-week window in the middle of a year. And so you go to Spain and you may be 4 different countries over there as part of that operation. You may be down in Puerto Rico and then back and forth between other countries in South America or whatever. So depending on what's going on in that particular one, you're only going for a period of time. Now, I remember the first time I went to Bora Bora. I had a flight. We're testing a brand new nav system for the Navy. They bring it out to our aircraft in Moffett Field, California, lower end of the Bay area. We put it in the aircraft, take off, do a 4-hour flight, come back, and literally 10 feet away. Great. We get ready to take off the next day. We're going to fly from California to Hawaii to Bora Bora, Tahiti. Well, we get out there in the air and the won't start. So we fly down to Burbank. They bring another one right out in a crate. They uncrate it, put it in the aircraft, plug it in. It works. We take off. We fly to Hawaii, maybe 20 feet off in accuracy or wherever we land at. We load up a bunch of civilian scientists. We fly down to Papeete, Tahiti, and we're down there for 4 days. Turn around, fly the same mission back up north, and then back to the States. Well, the following year, my wife and I go down to Tahiti for 2 weeks. So sometimes the journeys that I go on, I know where my wife will enjoy going, and we just go. And so there's kind of a catch up sometimes. I remember one time I was in New York City, and I saw a couple of plays, and it just kind of the memories. And so I just bought one of these books that had zero writing in it, just lines. And I just started capturing. I wanted to do 100 memories of my first 25 years of marriage. And so I'm writing this thing, handwritten, all, these different ones. I think I got 80, 82, 84. And so our anniversary came, and I was able to give her something that it's my recollection of special moments that we had in our first 25 years, because I was away for a period of time, 3 months at a time or whatever it was. And yeah, we talk on the phone, but it's not quite the same thing. Nowadays you got the videos, but back then I remember in Vietnam, they had the Mars deal. You get the letters that have free written on the top, and I could write the letters free. They would have to send me postage, but I would get audio tapes. But when we finally get to a place where you could actually talk to somebody, hi Marilyn, over, over, I love you, over, because the two people on both ends of the communication, they had to know that when you said over, this one turned off, this one turned on. And so that was kind of an interesting experience for a while. But nowadays with the videos on your phones, that kind of communication is routine, but that's not what we had during the time frame that you're talking about being gone. But my wife came over to Germany. She lived with me there for about 6 months, and I got her to about 24 countries in Europe at the time. And I think I'd done about 30 at that point in time.
So you have a very successful marriage, a beautiful family, a successful career, and you leave the military, I believe, in November of 1999. And then what happens?
Okay, I left the military in late 1973. And my tour was up. I ended up wanting to go back to Texas, but I got a job in California, and I got in the field of quality assurance, reliability engineering. And that's what I worked with for a while in data manufacturing. Then I ended up in the oil field business in Texas in the same field. And I spent 20 years in the reserves. So basically the job I had as they call it NATOPS checker. In other words, somebody goes out and essentially evaluates, let's just say 12 flight crews. My job is to be proficient in my job, which I get evaluated once a year by somebody at a command higher than me. But I evaluate all the other peer tactical coordinators and navigators in the squadron. So I'm at the unit, my squadron, 3 weekends out of the month. So I end up with about a 26-day work week before I get a weekend off. So 3 weekends a month for about 16 years is my military being gone on weekends. And sometimes it's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sometimes it's, just Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, but mostly Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. And so my wife, I'm not going to say got used to it, but she got used to it. And of course we had little kids at that point in time. And a lot of the Navy wives are a super great group of people because they all had shared the same kind of environment. Their husbands are out flying a fairly dangerous, mission. Just even flying is a dangerous mission, whether you're a commercial airliner or whatever. Just flying is inherently dangerous. You assuming everything works on the aircraft, you can have weather, you can have all sorts of other things that just create all sorts of problems. But, my wife is, at least she has some people now. When I got in the civilian world, she's off base, that camaraderie disappears. because we no longer have that community to rely on. But now you have your social groups, from the companies you work for, your church, other organizations that you might become members of. And so it takes a strong person to adapt. I remember I'm getting ready to leave California and head back to the States. I volunteered to go to the advanced party in Adak, Alaska, because I wanted to get my tour, that 2-week summer thing, out of the way, so I wouldn't have to worry about it. I'd drive my wife and back to Texas, where I was going to start a new job in Houston. And sure enough, one of the guy in the position that I flew, he had what was it? Not a heart attack. He had a problem up there. I can't think of appendicitis. And so 2 days later, I'm in Adak, Alaska. My wife is driving our family across the country by herself, literally with no notice. It just happened. And so these events that are non-events the day before happen to us all the time. And so you're flexible, you adapt, you overcome. You hear the routine that in the military a lot. And that applies to the wives too, because they are really a lot stronger than you think they are. You give them a little bit of adversity, and especially if they have kids, they are very, very strong, because they're there to protect them. They really are.
Congratulations to all of the military wives out there as well, and especially Marilyn. Red, what about when you were finally out of the military completely and now you're home all the time? So you were gone and now you're home. That must be a transition. And also working in corporate, taking the information and the experiences that you had, the training and the discipline and the structure into a corporate career.
I think what you said earlier, they want to hire somebody in the military because of the structure they have. And some jobs fit very, very nicely, especially those jobs that are high stress, high demand, very high risk reward kind of things, because you're able to make a decision. And a lot of people they're not trained to make a decision because they don't want to accept the failure from the decision. And so if you make enough bad decisions, you learn how to recognize a good one when it comes along. Or you learn to recognize trust in the people you have underneath you to give you the advice to make a good decision. And that's what you're there for as a good manager, is to train somebody to replace you. I mean, that's the whole purpose, I think, in life is, you have kids, you want them to do better than you. I have, workers that work for me. I want one of them to take my job, because that's kind of the nice advancement you have. So you spend your time, you get them trained, you get confidence in their ability, and then you look for, okay, if there's something open in the company, great, I'm going to jump at it. If not, there's so many ups and downs. I mean, I've been laid off 5 times, I guess, because of the industry and various things. But when I actually retired, I went to work for Halliburton. I was there for a while. I had a staff of 24. I hired up to 51. I was down to 2 other people and myself when I was told, you can accept this job over here at Sperry Sun, or we'll let you go. So I went over to Sperry Sun, and about 6 months later, I got canned from that. And that was right at the very, very, very bottom of the downflow of the oil industry in Texas. And had I survived that just another 6 months or so, I'd have probably been fine. But I accepted a job out of state, worked for the Department of Energy through Boeing Petroleum Services on the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. And my background in reliability engineering is what got me the job there as a reliability engineer. I switched over into logistics engineering. I eventually took over the entire logistics operation for the prime contractor for the Strategic Petroleum Reserve for the Department of Energy. And so that was what I worked on for a number of years. The contract expired. I signed up with a potential new contractor. He didn't get the job. I didn't get, the company I was with didn't get the job. So now I'm back out on the workforce again. I find a job in the local area as a quality assurance manager. That's working out for a while. And then I get a knock on the door. An admiral friend of mine says, hey, I need somebody in New York City for 90 days on active duty. I said, 90 days? I don't know. Anyway, things kind of fell, and okay, I'll take it. So I go there and I get done with that. I get back home. He says, hey, you interested in another 90 days? Okay. And so that started the next 6 years of active duty, where I spent 2 years in New York City, 2 years in San Francisco area, and 2 years in Stuttgart, Germany, doing things on active duty after I had already left the reserves. And then I retired. And then when I retired, I went to work for Halliburton. So I know it kind of mixes things up a little bit. but to get to the point I wanted to get to. Nowadays, it's extremely rare, maybe once or twice a month, it's kind of rare, that whenever I get in the car, my wife is always with me. It's just, that's the way it is. If she goes somewhere, I'm with her. Unless I'm going to a military event or some networking thing, she says, no, go ahead. Or she goes out with the girls for lunch or something. We're generally together, no matter what it is, we're together. And that's the way we live.
It's absolutely beautiful to be around the two of you. And I am so grateful that the two of you were able to participate in my keynote speech yesterday doing role plays, and people can actually go and see them on our YouTube channels. But where I want to go from here, I know we're running a little over time, but I think it's important. So with all the experience and the knowledge that you have and the world that we're in today, and of course, we're not going to talk politics. That's not something that we talk about here. But I have been told by numerous people that without war, there is no peace. And so what are your thoughts about people who are joining the military today? And then we've heard that maybe the draft is going to come back. Is it an honor to be able to serve your country, as opposed to what some people say, that it's the worst possible thing that can happen?
Well, Vietnam was kind of the worst possible thing that could happen. Clausewitz on war, Sun Tzu, The Art of War. War is according to Clausewitz, you want to do everything you can politically. The last step of any political outcome is war. And so that means you've exhausted every potential political option that you have to negotiate to get to a final settlement without putting anybody's life in danger. At that point in time, war becomes a political event. It's just the way it is. Now, in Sun Tzu, when you start looking at 2,500 years ago, and you want to know the enemy better than you know yourself, because if you can basically win a war without even getting a person involved because of leverage and negotiation and stuff, then those are things that are there. So it starts out with mindset. Is what you're being taught by your family, by your peers, by your friends, by your academic career. We're all inundated all the time with theories, with beliefs, positive, negative, doesn't matter. And so who do you believe? Do you believe Uncle Harry over here, or do you believe Aunt Sally over here? Do you believe what you see on TV, or do you believe what you dig down deep, go down 3 or 4 rabbit holes trying to find out an answer? So the worst possible scenario is your own brain. If you are so convinced that is the worst possible thing that can happen for you to walk into the military and say, I do, then that's the worst possible scenario for you. But if you're that scared of that kind of scenario, what other kind of life are you going to live down the road when something really serious happens?
That's a good point. And I think that's a great way for us to end our show today, except I want to just share that you have helped me so much, not just in my quest to be an author, but also in our media journey. We started together with Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, and we've evolved to where we are today, where you have 3 television shows every single Thursday. And friends, when I tell you something, I hear all kinds of excuses from people about why they can't do this and why they can't do that. Red never has any excuses. He always shows up, and he is consistently professional. And I would turn over this entire network to him, because that's how much I trust him. So if you are looking to be interviewed, he is the man to interview you. And we will be dropping the links where you can sign up for the Corner Bookstore or the Wise Ones. But Red, you are an expert when it comes to longevity. You've written over 1,000 blogs on your website, which we'll be bringing up. You've written a number of books. You've helped me publish 24 of my 26 books, and you have a brand new book coming out. Tell us about it.
It's called Aging Sucks. And I know you asked me to get a cover, and I think I have one. I just unpacked our bags last night, and I can't find the cover. I thought I had it. Anyway, Aging Sucks. End the guesswork. There is hope. Aging, I look at as a battle every single day, every second of every day, every cell in your body. You have damage that's occurring because of a variety of things. There's 12 different hallmarks of aging, fundamental reasons why the molecular level of the body aging occurs. Damage is there. In fact, this is my cover here. If it can be seen, aging sucks. Anyway, the counter to that battle is our ability to repair ourselves. We have 9 different fundamentals of health, and those fundamentals are the good guys on one side, the bad guys on the other, and every day they're just doing this battle. Now, so long as the good guys are winning, you're in pretty decent health. But when the bad guys are winning, now all of a sudden you're susceptible to any number of diseases, a higher risk of it, but you start aging at a much faster pace, accelerated aging. Now, this is just part of normal life. As we get in our 50s and 60s, you start seeing, okay, gray hair, the wrinkles, all sorts of things. The muscles that just don't work the way they used to. That extra 3 or 4 or 5, 6 inches of fat around the belly. We have things that change physiologically in us because these are the aging processes. And we have the ability to fight most of them, but as the damage accumulates so fast that the body can't keep up with it, that's when things really start to take a toll. And now when you start getting, maybe a heart disease on top of that, or maybe dementia, or maybe something else, these are things that compound those problems because now you're not even consciously aware or even aware in some cases to really fully counter some of these things that are out there. And so my book is about what are these fundamental causes of damage? What does our body do every day in order to build up the resources it needs to counter all these, to give ourselves time to recover and to adapt and to grow stronger? And that's what the book is about.
And I am very excited for this book to come out because you have put your heart and soul in it. You've actually been able to write and get it edited in a very quick amount of time. So we're really excited about this. For anyone who wants to book an interview with Red, you can go to our website, which is usaglobaltv.com/book-your-session and look for the Corner Bookstore and the Wise Ones. Red, what would you like to leave our audience with today in reference to Memorial Day and the meaning?
Well, the meaning obviously is for our comrades in arms that have lost their life in the quest of protecting our country. And I tell my daughter every day when she goes to work, have fun, enjoy life, be safe. And so I think that's the best thing you can do for us, the families that are there. I have 2 brothers that have passed who are in the military. Not directly in combat, but they were in the military. One was in the reserves when he passed, my brother I talked about earlier. Another one who had retired and passed. So you have exposure in the military to, most of the people are Agent Orange and the fires there in the Middle East. All sorts of things you're exposed to that back here in the States you're not. So you're operating under the hammer. Sometimes you don't even know it for a couple, 3 or 4 decades. So things happen to us. You may not see it for 20 years, 30 years, but it's there. But if you can take every single day, just have fun, enjoy life, and be safe, I think that's really and truly the most that you can do. And, let things be what they are. It is what it is. You can't change the past. So you got to let go of that stress and just move on and enjoy life, have fun, be safe.
One of the key takeaways I have from tonight is about stress, because holding on to stress and being unable to process stress, do something with the stress, can have very long-term impact on our lives. So thank you again for sharing that. And you and I were just in a panel discussion yesterday on book publishing. And you are, as I mentioned, my book coach and book publisher, and you have maybe 3 or 4 slots available for other people who are interested in having their book published. Tell us about that and the best way for people to reach you.
RedO'Laughlin.com, R-E-D, like the color, O'Laughlin, OLAUGHLIN.com, RedO'Laughlin.com. My contact information is there. My preferred is phone number or email. My preferred method is I will talk with you as a book coach to see if there's a fit between what you're doing and how I might be able to help you. But if you have your book, it's done, it's edited, it's proofed, it's ready to go. You have a cover, you don't have a cover. We're at that point in time where publishing can probably be done pretty easily in 2 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that, depending on. But what's the problem I have with brand new authors? with a book that's already done, ready to roll, is generally about the cover aspect of it. If the content of your book is pretty good, you might have a book in 2 weeks. But if you have cover problems, that's generally where I have most of my issues. But that's what I can help people with. If you want to talk to me, give me a buzz. We'll chat on the phone, see if there's something we can work together. If there's not, we part friends. If there is, then I'll help you any way I can.
I personally and professionally recommend Red, the highest level recommendation that you can actually give. And when I mentioned 24 out of 26 books, the last two I've done myself because the teacher has taught me so well that I can now free up his schedule and publish books myself. So please do reach out to Red. And Red, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us on A Woman's Prerogative. Reverend Lydia Fougere is the host of this show, and she will be back next week. So she specifically wanted to have you on, and I was quite delighted when you said that you were available. So thank you again, Red.
Well, thank you very much. I miss Reverend Lydia, and I look for the opportunity we can connect down the road. So
absolutely. Bye for now, Red.
Bye now.
Now we know the meaning of Memorial Day, and we've heard Red's background and how he transitioned from the military to what he's doing today. And he is someone, like I shared before, this man you can count on for anything and everything. He never disappoints. He shows up, he takes things seriously, and I really admire that about him and people who have military background who are structured and disciplined, and even people who aren't in the military who are structured and disciplined. So what I'd like to leave you with today, it's hard to believe that it's Memorial Day 2026. I'm now 63 years of age, and sometimes I just have to pinch myself and say, where has the time gone? So to Red's point, whatever you're doing in your life, if it is not bringing you joy, if you are not in a peaceful place, if you are constantly under stress and duress and you are miserable and you are angry, please take this moment to decide what you're going to do to make a change, because the only one who can change your life is you. And you've probably heard this 1,000 times, but we are always one decision away from changing the course of our life. But if we don't get out there, if we don't open the window, open the door, walk through it, crawl through it, do whatever you have to do to get to the other side, you'll never know what's waiting for you. And you might just sit there and watch everyone you know moving forward, and you feel like, what about me? Now's your time. Don't wait until next year. Don't wait until the end of this year. Don't wait until New Year's Day to make resolutions. Do it now. I hope you find the peace that I have in my life. I hope that you have it in your life. Thank you again for watching. Thank you for listening. If you haven't done so, please, this means so much to not just me, but to everyone on our team. We work very hard to bring you education, inspiration, and hope. Please go over to our YouTube channels. And the reason, the value for you to join our YouTube channels is because we have world-class education, and you can go and find it in our playlist. If you're watching on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or through distributor, that's all terrific. But we can't see that content after a certain period of time. YouTube keeps everything. We have 2 channels in case something would ever happen to the one channel. We've got a backup channel. So there they are. So if you go and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. And I know my team members would, and you'll find value there. And finally, we are actively looking for TV show hosts, especially ones who speak other languages than English. We currently have German, French, and English. If you have a story to tell, whether you have experience in broadcasting or not, we will train you. We will support you. We will coach you. So please feel free to reach out. We're going to play a clip right now that gives you all the information that you need. Don't keep your story locked up, because if you do, it can cause stress that eats away at you. I know, because I did it with my ulcerative colitis. I waited 30 years before I decided to do something. And now here I am speaking with you fine people. Let's take a look. God bless you. Please stay safe, and please do something to make a change to bring peace into your life. Good night.
Hey, you. Psst. Yes, you. Watching this right now. Are you creating content, a blog, a podcast, a newsletter, going live on Instagram or TikTok, and still not seeing real visibility or growth? Here's why. Anyone can post, anyone can go live, but not everyone is positioned to be taken seriously. Right now, people are going to YouTube to search for experts, for answers, for credibility. So while you're putting in the work, someone else is being seen as the authority. Not because they know more, because they're positioned better. Now imagine this. Your own professionally produced TV show, marketed, distributed, optimized with SEO so people can actually find you. Not just seen, but searchable, discoverable, positioned. You're trained, you're coached, you're guided. No experience necessary, but you do have to be coachable, because this is about stepping into a higher level. This isn't about doing more, it's about doing it right. We've already built the platform, 2 YouTube channels, a global audience, a Silver Creator Award. So the question is, how much longer are you going to rely on temporary visibility when you could be building real authority? If you're ready to be seen differently, go to USAGlobalTV.com and apply to host your own show. This is for individuals who are serious about investing in their visibility, their credibility, and their growth. If that's you, we're ready. USA Global TV and Radio, where your voice becomes your platform. Executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Videographer, Paul Garcia. Voiceover, Ed Vargas. All rights reserved. This production is the exclusive property of the USA Global TV and Radio and may not be reproduced, distributed, or used without written permission.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at USAGlobalTV.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USAGlobalTV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.